Good morning. This is going to be Chapter 5 Income Statements. This video was actually made a year after the previous videos that you've seen for Chapter 5 because I forgot to do that. So let's park me up here. Oh, hold on a second. And we're going to talk about financial statements for a merchandising business. So they are going to be a little bit different. Hold on one second, guys. Let me get all my little things I need to go here. Okay, my cat's up there. Okay. Oops. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Okay, let's get back. I'm looking for my pointer. Here we go. Okay. So, financial statements are different when we're talking about merchandising because if you remember from the first few chapters that you basically had a very, what we call a single step type thing. It was basically revenue minus expenses equals net income. Here we have what we call a multi-step, or there's also a single step, but it's quite different. So the multi-step has more columns, it has more subtotals, it has more sections because I have these type of titles in there now. So my sales, so I just don't have revenue anymore. Now I have sales. Then I have to subtract my cost of goods sold. That's what I actually paid for the product. That will equal my gross profit. And then I also have something called, and then I'll subtract my expenses, and then I'll have income from operations and something called other revenue and expenses. So it's a little bit different format. And this just talks about each of the things here. The cost of goods sold is basically the cost of your sales. My gross profit is sales minus my cost of goods sold. But at that point, remember, I have not actually subtracted any expenses. Okay, then I'm going to have operating income. Then I subtract expenses, but expenses are broken into two categories. The first one is selling. So these are only expenses that you incur directly in the selling of your merchandise. And here are some examples. The second one is called admin expenses, or they're often called G&A, which stands for General and Administrative Expenses. These are expenses that you will incur no matter whether or not you sell anything. They're usually more like fixed expenses. So here's examples of them. Okay. Then I'm going to have other income or other expenses from businesses that have nothing to do with me selling. So other revenue would be examples of this right here. Any other revenue is anything that comes in from any other source other than my sales. And the same with expenses. Any expense I incur that I can't trace back directly to selling product. And here are usually the examples. And so we're going to skip this and we're going to look at this. I want you guys to see this. This is the income statement. First thing you notice, there are 3 columns. Okay, and it starts up here with my total sales minus my cost of goods sold, and don't forget the negative sign here, would equal my gross profit. Now gross profit means I haven't subtracted expenses yet. So next I'm going to take my operating expenses and break them into the selling and the admin, and I'm going to total each of them up and move to the second column. Total each of these up, move to the second column. I'm then going to add these expenses and bring the total to the third column. These are expenses. They will be subtracted from the gross profit, and that will give me income from operations. Now I'm going to look at any other revenue or expenses. Revenue I would add, expenses I would subtract. So I had rent revenue and I had interest expense. So when I add these together, I get a negative number, which of course will subtract from income from operations. And now my net income is way down here at the bottom. So you see I had $708,000 in sales, but I only made a total net income of $80,000. The rest of it was cost that I incurred during the process of making the sales. So this is a multi-step. Let me show you this single step. It's much more simpler, but most of the time you will be doing this. Here is my single step. It's a little bit different, but again, it really doesn't tell you much, and it looks like this. I just plug my revenues here, I plug my expenses here, and they're just grouped together. So I really don't know how much my rent expense is. I really don't know how much my advertising expenses. These are just grouped as totals. I come up with the same number. Yes, this is smaller and shorter and easier, but in order to do these numbers here, you really have to break them all out on them like the multi-step. So this is the end of the income statement. Nothing else really changes for financial statements for this chapter 5, only the income statement. So this is the end of video 5 for chapter 5 income statements.